Say one more thing just to make it clear for the record. It's not district court that's in charge of the weather. That's circuit court. Thank you.
Dave has a question.
I was just going to ask about the impact of the attorney fee legislation, the indigent.
Okay. You know, we're going to see that happen in our
Sometime.
state. It sounds like, my guess is 2016 maybe.
Really?
I think that we're positioned our county well in that regard, as far as I can tell, unless there's some blips in it, because it's my understanding that the county association is trying to guarantee that it's your payments are not going to go up from what they have been.
Right.
And right now, as of, I think that 2013 would be one of the years, and then they go back 2 additional years and they'll come up with an average. And our numbers are very low at $250 per case. Mm-hmm. I'm happy for you that it's $250. I'm somewhat concerned that in $250, does that really motivate an attorney to do the job they need to do? That's a concern, but they keep taking cases to jury trial, they're bringing motions, so they're doing the job. So, and we bid that, and we're bidding those out, and we've been fortunate. So that may help for years to come, but we'll see. But they can always change things too. So, okay. But it's going to happen. It's coming down. It's a snowball that's coming down the hill, and so we won't be picking our attorneys like we have in the past. There'll be probably some kind of public defender. So, but we do thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Community Corrections.
Hi there, my name is Sheree Shively. I'm the Community Corrections Manager, and I'm going to give you a little bit. I didn't come as organized as Carol with a PowerPoint, but I do have a couple handouts that I'll give you. Yeah, could you? One is that I just got the handout you guys had given us to request us to answer questions, so I basically answered all of your questions. And the other one is just a printout of our budget for the last 5 years, so that I could bring some things to your attention while we're talking. What Community Corrections is, we have a little bit of a complex program. We are funded through the Department of Community Alternatives from Michigan Department of Corrections. So that is where our main funding comes from. We get $188,000 per year from MDOC to run our program. We primarily are to target felons to reduce prison commitment rates. That's one part of it, but just in a short thing, that's what we do. We do much, much more than that, but that is why we are actually run under Michigan Department of Corrections, and we are a 13th Circuit Court program. We are, however, housed in Grand Traverse County District Court, well, all of the district courts, because that is how all community corrections are run, is through the local county government throughout the state. So we're we serve everybody. We serve circuit court for the felons, we serve misdemeanors through district court, and occasionally we will also serve those who are 17 and at least 17 out of probate court. We haven't done them often, but I've handled maybe 5 or 6 over the last few years through those guys for the juveniles. One thing I would like to go back to is just a quick note about security when you were asking those questions.
Yes.
I can tell you myself, I have only had to push my panic button once in the almost 9 years that I've worked here, and it was very much needed. And the Sheriff's Department, I had 4 sheriff's deputies in my office down in the basement. I think it took them less than 1.5 to 2 minutes, but I also, at the same time, even quicker than that, got DK security down. The gentleman actually tried to chest bump Sergeant Ritter, and he was about...
Now, there's a brave soul.
He was not much taller than me, so he was violent. He was very, very, he was set to hurt somebody, and I was glad he took on Sergeant Ritter, not myself. And the gentleman at gentleman at DK Security, I had somebody coming to a report day for me, and in his briefcase had a knife, a baton, handcuffs, and a police scanner. So when you're wondering what they're getting and who they're maybe affecting, this gentleman was coming to me, and he would have been in my office with me by myself.
But they caught this at the door.
Yeah. And he was, he had some mental health issues. So that's just on a personal note when you're asking about the impact of security.
I truly appreciate that, I really do. It's an education for me, and sometimes I need one.
Yeah. And like I said, it's only once in the whole time I've worked here, but I could have been very much hurt. I mean, the gentleman tried to chest bump Todd Ritter. I mean,
I hear you, yeah. I know.
he wouldn't have worried about taking me on. All right. The folks that we see, we go into jails. We go into the 3 jails, Grand Traverse, Antrim, and Leelanau. Our folks are the most difficult of everybody. The folks that they talk about failing out of probation, failing out of drug court, mental health court, those are our clients. We take the felons that are those who their sentencing guidelines could have either sent them to prison or jail. They're called straddle cell offenders. So they're straddling on that line of whether or not they should go to prison or they should stay in our local communities. Those are the folks that we target. And so we're also dealing with that, difficult clientele. We require that the folks that we see have good behavior while they're in jail. We work very closely with all the jail administrators and jail staff, and if they will call us and tell us that somebody has, not been behaving or has received what they call tickets in the jail, we utilize that. We can tell the client as an incentive to, start behaving in jail, we will delay you being on our program if you can X, Y, Z. It also helps us to know that that is not somebody we will put on our program, because if they cannot follow those rules in the jail, we're not going to place them in the community. The clients that we see all are in jail for our community corrections program. We have a couple other things that we do, but the main mandated programs that we do, that we are mandated through Public Act 511 from the legislature, are all folks who are in jail. So we go in and we do assessments on these clients, and while we're in there, we create a plan that we want to present to the judges. This is what we'd like to do with this offender, instead of being in jail. So we are taking the folks out of jail and placing them in the local communities for treatment. Everything that we get them out for is not to just get them out of jail. Unfortunately, they would love that, but we don't just get someone out of jail because they want to get out. We make sure that whatever we're doing with them is a direct relation to why they're in jail or the help that they need, the things that they need to work on. And so that's the basic gist of our program. And so the folks that we see and get out of jail, we have the luxury of holding that jail time over their head. So we have, in 2013, at the end of the year when I did my report, our success rate was 81% success. We deem success as just being able to finish their jail term on our program and not going back to jail. We don't track them after that time period. But I think that's fairly successful, that 81% of them succeed in our program when we are taking the worst cases. We don't even see, I would say, would you think 90% of the people in district court? I don't know, maybe. Yeah, maybe we see 10 or 20% of the clients in district court. Most of those folks go on probation. They never see even the judge ever again. There's people that make bad choices in their life, and they just get out, they get done with probation, they're done. Those aren't our clients. We see the rest. So we deal with a fairly difficult clientele. Another thing that we do, as we mentioned before, is we do community service work for the district courts. We also have a program that we can do that we do with Friend of the Court. They have a family court, it's a diversion program through their Friend of the Court program. And one of the parts of it is if somebody is not employed, they will send them to us to go to do community service, and we operate that as a job. They will go, they usually see Friend of the Court Tuesdays and Thursdays, so on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they go to work for X amount of days, however many days we state that they have to go. Typically, we send them to Goodwill or another one of the resale stores because our goal is to also try and help them get a job. And as we've done that, I think, we don't have a lot of those folks, but we do see those. We have had, in the 4.5 years we've been doing community service work, have had 9 people get jobs just by sending them to do community service work. So I think that's fairly successful through the Friend of the Court program. We also do the community service work for the district court. So those are anybody who is a drunk driving first, a retail fraud first, very low level cases, and usually it's for only their first offense. They'll be given X amount of days of community service work in lieu of X amount of days in jail. So that also gives them an incentive to want to complete their community service work, because typically you are given, say, 3 days of community service work in lieu of going to jail for 6 days. So it's more of an incentive to stay out of jail. You don't want to go to jail for 6 days, then you can do this work. A day for us is 8 hours, so a three-day sentence would be 24 hours of community service work. So that's something we do for the court. We mentioned that we do community service work for collections, and we don't do that broadly. It's very narrow cases where they just know they will never, ever collect the money, but the person is fully capable of working it off. And we have, we've had people work up $5,000 and $6,000 worth of community service work. They're doing hundreds of hours of community service work. It's not that they're just going and doing a couple days worth. They will work for 3 months of doing community service work. Also, while they're doing that, we say to them, for every $100 of fines you still pay, that's still less community service work you have to do. So we're still trying to get them to collect. And you'd be surprised, really? That's less days I have to do of this, crap, basically is what they'll say, and they'll start paying. So it's everything we do, we try and give them an incentive for something so to make them want to do it. One other thing we do is we just started in the last probably year, we provide in-home breath test units for the court. Right now, the one we have is like a briefcase type. You talked about the interlock that goes in people's devices in their cars. This is the same company. It's an Intoxilock device. It's just in the form of a briefcase. And so we can do as many breathalyzers that is ordered by the court per day for those. The clients have to pay for that, so that is a revenue-generating program for us, as is the community service work. That's a revenue-generating program for us. And we are getting very, very busy with those in-home PBT units because clients don't have to drive to the testing places. You live in Kingsley, I live in Kingsley, and I'm such a budget-conscious person about everything. I know it costs me $12 a day to drive to work and back, So if you have somebody who is doing twice a day breathalyzers, and they drive from Kingsley in the morning to go do breathalyzers and in the evening to come and do breathalyzers, not only is it 2 hours of their time, that's, $20-something that they're paying for gas. Our PBTs are $6 a day for a flat rate. It's affordable for them. It does not take away from the individuals going to ATS that live right here in town. That's definitely much more affordable. This is just another avenue that they have, and we are now trying right now a different unit, and it's smaller, and we're just in the testing stages of it. We haven't even really done much with it, except for we have it with 2 clients. And that is a machine that is very small, and it does random breathalyzers, and so we can set a random schedule. The client doesn't choose when to take their PBT. So right now they choose to go to ATS, typically from 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, anywhere to 9 a.m. In the evening, they go for a 2 or 3 hour period. So they choose. With this, they're not choosing when to do their breathalyzers, and we're doing many more. We can do from 4 to 12 breathalyzers a day on somebody. So these are going to be very useful for clients that have serious drinking problems, and you want to actually control that and monitor that. But and it's so easy. And so when you ask about using technology, that's one of the main things that is changing in our program. I'm not kidding, probably every 3 or 4 months we have something different offered to us, or so we're constantly trying to decide what is the most fiscally responsible and the most beneficial to us. So those are the main programs that we have. How much it costs. So I wanted to refer you to this sheet. And if you look, in 2006, we had requested from Grand Traverse County $36,142. The next year, it jumped up to $107,000. That is when the county was asked to hire another staff member. That actually was me. But they were Tim Keenan came and asked to hire another staff member. So that's why it jumped so much. But then if you notice over the years, our high was $113,000, and for 2014, we only budgeted $49,000 from the county. It has gone down drastically, especially the last few years. The reason for that is because of our community service work program and our PBTs, because those are revenues for us that we bring in. Let's see, where did I say that? I'll get down to that part. But that's one of our revenue generating programs. In Grand Traverse County last year, we had 170 clients out of 256. So we served the 3 counties. Grand Traverse County was about 66% of our population of the offenders that we serve. And we asked you for, and this is 2013, we asked you for 67,000. 2014, we budgeted 49,000. I don't know exactly what the results will be, but that's a great difference right there itself. We saved, just with our community corrections program, not the community service work program, we saved 18,884 jail bed days last year. And the figure that they used of $56 a day to house an inmate was from 2001. So when you calculate $56 a day for the 18,000 plus, we saved the county over $1 million. It's 2014. That's much more than $56 a day now to house an inmate. So for the 49,000 that we've asked this year, you know, I think that's a pretty good return on your investment with our program. And hopefully, as we get more revenue from these programs, we'll continue to lower that. But I think I was really amazed when I got that printed out, how low that was. We asked of Leelanau County, we asked them this last year for $9,556, and Antrim County was a little over, almost $17,000. So they also kick in, and everything is based on a proportion of the percentage rate of the clients that we have out of those counties. And you have asked us, why do we think that these services are important? I think that the district court did a great job of doing that. With our program, we tailor each and every one of our inmates that we get out, we tailor the program to fit them. Nothing is the same for anybody. And if an offender is a domestic violence guy and he's got alcohol problems, obviously we're going to address those things too, but is he employed and does he need help with employment? We address employment. We have things that were mandated from Public Act 511 to address. So we protect the public, punish the offender, hold the offender accountable, increase restitution to victims of crime, which when we have somebody that's on community corrections, we do ask the court, we say to them, you can ask the court to postpone your payments of fines and costs while you're on community corrections because there is a cost of our program. But we usually require them to continue to pay on the restitution. That's not a portion that we ask them to hold off on, because their victims deserve to still get payment for what they've done just because they got out of jail early. They're working, they can still provide for that. So while they're in our program, we do those kinds of things. We put them into residential treatment, sometimes anywhere between 30 days and 5 months, depending on what the client's situation is, how we're funding them. We get funded through the state of Michigan for different programs for residential, which can put them in longer. Lots of places, things like that. But we tailor our programs specifically to each individual. And we have done some very unique things and creative things. And what we do is we create an order and we go and we present that to the probation officer first so that they can let us know, you don't know this about the client, this is what's going on, and so then we can change some things. Once we've got that finalized, then we take it to the jail. That's where the jail says, no, we're not going to approve this. And here's why. They'll attach documentation so that we can take that to the judge and say, this is why the jail doesn't think the person's appropriate. Or we'll work with the jail and I'll say, okay, do you want me to go talk to them and tell them if you behave, maybe we'll wait 30 days and then you can get on the program. That helps a lot. I think that they have an incentive to try and do what's right if they really want to. And in the end, we send those to the judges and they have the final say. If the judge approves it, they approve it. If they don't, they don't. And their discretion is, the most. The judges will, when they're sentencing somebody, oftentimes say that community corrections can review a case. That does not mean that we actually will end up getting that person on the program for all those reasons that I said. There may be many factors. They'll say that we can review a case, and in the week and a half it takes us to maybe, or months, the clients do have to serve a portion of their jail term. In that time period, they've gotten in so much trouble in the jail that overrides, everything, because you've got to, it's a privileged program. It's not guaranteed to every offender. Last year, we did provide over 12,000 hours of community service in Grand Traverse County, and that was to over 28 agencies. So we provide a lot of community service work to the community. We provide it to the state parks in the summers, the Cherry Festival, the fair. You know, when they usually run the trash at the fair and the trash at the Cherry Festival. Just regular, they'll go to all the resale stores, they go to the local fire departments and they're washing fire trucks, they help paint things. They go to the local parks, we can do the state parks and we can go to the local parks and help with anything like that. And our clients work. I think, I want them to work. It's not to just go, I've had some people ask if they can go and do some, what I consider light things, and not that it's not enjoyable, but I don't think that's the goal of the program, is to, I don't want you to be miserable when you're doing it, but you need to have an effect, when you're doing your work. You need to understand that, well, I don't really want to go back to jail and do this kind of thing over again.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah.
Working with the Cherry Festival over the years, the guys and gals that you send over, they work.
I know.
And it's amazing how they really take the place of some of the volunteers, and they do the grunt work that a lot of the volunteers, some were willing to do that, but not everybody is. So they really help tremendously in that. But we also had a presentation by our facilities as to whether or not they could use some of these people, and you might want to work with Danny Brown on that to find out how many of those people could actually help them with the lawn maintenance, the snow shoveling and things like that. I think that's what you were looking at, wasn't it, Chris?
We did that a few years ago when we first started the program, and I think we ran into union issues of whether or not a volunteer person could do that.
So we'll have to look into it again.
Yeah, I will. I'll contact him. Did you have a question?
Chris?
On that avenue, thank you, Mr. Chairman, how do you determine the agencies that are selected?
We have a few criteria. They have to be a nonprofit, so a 501c3 or a government agency. They cannot go anywhere where there is a vulnerable person. We do not allow them to go to schools, and we don't allow them to go to senior citizen, like Bort's Healthcare or somewhere like that. They can go to a senior center where the folks come to hang out for the day, do activities and things like that. But nowhere where there is a vulnerable person that they could take advantage of.
Okay, question. You mentioned state parks. We have county parks. Lawns are mowed in state parks and in county parks. How do you determine that there are no vulnerable people nearby? Are the workers supervised?
Yes, they always have to be supervised. There's somebody there that has to verify that they're working. Regardless of where we send them to, I always have talked to the agency. I've always worked that out with them and tell them that our expectations and our rules. One of our main rules is that we are to benefit them. They do not have to put up with anybody being disrespectful or rude or not working or texting on their cell phone. My rule is you just leave your cell phone in the car. You're not there to play. You're there to work. And all of the places that we work with know those expectations. So no, we don't know if they're going to a park, if there's going to be somebody like that. We do not ever place anybody who is a sex offender. We only have one place that we will place somebody that's a sex offender, and they're monitored.
Okay.
And that's not this current crime as a sex offense, because we would not do that.
Right.
It's do they have any sex offenses in their past? Most of the people that we get, this is their very first crime, because if they've got repeat crimes, the judges aren't giving them community service work.
And on any given day, approximately how many workers do you have available?
Wow. Well, we had 925 clients last year of community service workers. I can't tell you on any given day, but I would say there's at least 15 or 20 on any given day that are out doing community service work somewhere. Between all three counties. Probably more than that. Much more than that. I will say on any given day of court, we will get anywhere between 5 and 10 new clients on a court day assigned to community service work. We require them to do, it is very simple, they're only required typically to do 4 hours a week. Anybody can fit that into their schedule. We don't tell them when they have to go. We don't do that. We tell them you work that into your life. There are certain folks that I will make them work more, and I will tell them where they have to go based on their attitude, what the crime was, and certain situations.
Do you work with either the county administrator or the city manager with these workers at all?
No.
Okay, thank you.
City manager is the one that also brought up union issues, because I went for a walk one day on the beach right at the beginning of spring. It was nasty, it's nasty down there under the bridge. And so I came back and called. I said, would you need community service work? And that's when I was told also that it was a union issue.
So,
Because I would have loved to send somebody down there and
That's a
clean it
good
up.
project for you to work on, Mr. Benda.
I have plenty of people to provide service. During the winter especially, we run out of locations because we're basically sending them to the resale stores and a couple of other locations because there's just nothing, nobody's open in the winter. We send them to,
Another question, I'm sorry. This brings to mind, I mean, you're talking about picking, I've been underneath the bridge and walking, and I see trash. The Conservation District, they pick up trash along the Boardman River regularly.
in the spring and the summer, Chart Trails and the Conservation District have our information, and they'll contact us when they have special events that they need help with. So we do provide that
Okay.
for them. Not so much the Conservation District. I think we've done that every once in a while, but Chart Trails, we usually do it a couple times a year with
And
them.
I would like to hear from the administrator whether or not something like this is an option under our current contracts.
I've just wanted them to weed the flower bed outside of the courthouse. That drives me nuts, the weeds that are there. Things like that.
Well, yeah,
I would be right out there, wouldn't I? I was raised very old-fashioned on a farm, so you work.
Yes, I do. I'm going to defer that question to my hired professional
my hired
in
professional,
labor relations. And human resources.
and here she comes.
Jen Seaman, Human Resources Director. It's probably, that was before my time. Let me start off by saying that. I have not had any interaction with this, but my guess is they probably said it was bargaining unit work. We have employees that are groundskeepers, that if someone is doing work that is determined to be bargaining unit work, that the union had an issue with them doing that same work.
That was what they said, yes.
Okay, is this something that we can negotiate in future contracts? I mean, quite honestly, I don't envision groundskeepers wanting to go along our park area, the Boardman River, picking up trash. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love it.
So, Charlie?
I would think maybe as far as that kind of labor that they could be utilized, but I don't think you can start bringing people in to operate equipment and things like that, like plow
They-
snow with trucks and stuff.
No, they use lawnmowers and weed eaters.
So I think
That's
it'd be very
about,
limited as to what they would probably be able to do anyway.
But as she said, I can mow a lawn, Charlie. If I can mow a lawn, trust me, anyone
But-
can mow a
but
lawn.
excuse me,
I don't buy that.
it's
I don't
called
buy that.
grunt labor.
That's why we have unions and stuff that say we don't want to do that.
It's punishment. It's grunt labor.
I like
They
mowing
do,
lawns.
in the summer,
And
they are,
washing windows.
Chris needs some help out to the Twin Lakes to wash windows this spring.
well, they do, every summer, they're out at Civic Center South with those folks. Anybody who lives in Kingsley, that's where I send them, or
And
in
we
that area.
contract window washing with Fish Window Washing. Why? I'm just asking some questions here.
Some of our windows takes a little more.
Yeah.
Well, I understand the
But
high
some are-
ones do, but I mean, if I can wash a window out at Twin Lakes, so can you. Really? I'll show you.
Excuse me, I did that for 50 years. I understand how to clean a
Yeah,
window.
I mean, it can be done. But this is
Yeah,
a way to help people get used to working, and it's a way to help
Sure.
the citizens and
I think, this
Organization.
is just one of those things that we'll put on our list of
You
things that
adding
we
this?
want to
Oh,
look
yeah.
at.
It's already on there.
it's on there.
I welcome it, because I'm always looking for more places. We have a lot of people that we need to get through this, and in the winter, it gets really hard, because they'll go to Women's Resource Center or Salvation Army, and they're lined up to work, and there's not a lot to do. They've got to go somewhere, whatever, I tell them, make them clean the corners. I don't care what you do. Make
Yeah.
them get out a toothbrush, make them clean. Provide them something to do.
Vacuuming.
Oh, they do all
We
that.
contract
But I
that.
mean,
You know,
yeah.
I mean,
so, that's out there for you. I would love to.
and since I did that today, that's why I brought that to mind. I vacuumed.
Yes, Dave?
Are you near the end of your presentation here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The other stuff I have is very
Captain Hall
clear.
tells me that we just sent another 10 inmates, perhaps to Charlevoix. No?
No.
To Leelanau.
Leland,
And of course, you can only board out inmates that are
Long
good
term.
inmates that haven't had issues inside the jail and are going to be in for a long enough time that it doesn't make, they're not going to be out next week.
We're one of the first calls they make when they're going to board inmates out to see, who are you getting out this week? How many more people do you think you can get out? A few of the things when we do are, we do a list every week for community corrections to see who's new in the jail, and we go through those things. I would say well over half the folks that are eligible for community corrections turn us down. We are very intensive, and we require them to do a lot.
Really?
So they turn us down.
If
There's
you
nothing.
save,
And what's the, do you give them good
They don't want to
time
stop
for-
using drugs. They don't want to get a job. They don't want to be accountable and be told where they're going to go and who they're going to be with, and they don't want to follow rules. That's why we deal with the hardest of the hard. And I would say well over 50% of the folks that we go and see turn us down. It's too much
If you
work.
saved 18,000 bed days a year, divide that by 365, that's 51 people a day, almost 52. That's a lot of people you can put to work.
Yeah. That's just that, that's not our
That's not
community
just-
service
right.
work. That's not
Yes.
even our
That's all.
community
Yeah.
service work. That's just the community, in lieu of jail folks.
Right.
So,
So as far as the 20 that were sent out today, how many of those were in the middle of a program, GED, doing something through your office?
none. We
None?
get them out of
Okay.
jail. They wouldn't be in the jail to go somewhere.
So you don't do any of the, you're not, part of your program is not in jail programming?
No, it's out, we get them out of jail and put them into the
Okay.
community programming. I will also say that
Different than
some more of those that are in there already failed our program and went back to jail. Because we hold those jail beds, or jail days over their head. If they violate enough, we don't, one little problem, put you back in jail. We give them we want them to succeed. We want them to change their lives. We want them to become better people. We're going to give them every tool possible to do that. But at a certain point, we know when it's done.
Other
So-
questions?
Those are that. Well, I have a couple
More?
things.
Okay.
I just wanted to go over the revenue that we made in 2013. So our community service work program, when we started, I think about 4.5 years ago, first year we made maybe $3,000 or $4,000, and every year it got a little bit more and a little more. So in about 4.5 years, we've gone from nothing to $45,000 last year in revenue that we made. That doesn't cost us anything because it's with staff we already have. Our in-home PBT unit that we've been doing for a year, we had revenue of $22,000 plus. So we make money. And those, when you ask what non-mandated programs could be affected, that's it. We have to do everything else we're doing because that's mandated by Public Act 511. So,
At what point do you see that you have to increase staff because of the number of people you have to see?
last year.
Oh, last year, oh, thanks.
We need another full-time staff member, but when you're talking cutting a budget, that's certainly not something I'm ever going to ask for. I'm smart enough to know that. Yeah, and we can increase even more of the things that we do, but we're working right now with just what we have.
Are you keeping track of what's going on with sentencing guidelines?
Yes,
And
somewhat. I mean,
somewhat?
with the folks that we address, not with,
Is your association working on that and keeping you abreast of how the discussions are going?
yeah, I think they have a meeting in a week or two with, we have I'm in a board, a membership of all community corrections managers.
Right.
And the heads of that are going in for a meeting with the state, I think, in a couple weeks. One thing that we address is we want to reduce prison commitment rates within the state. But again, we also do not want to accept crime in our community. We have a fairly high prison commitment rate compared to other areas of the state. If you compare us to Wayne County, they have about an 18%, 20% prison commitment rate. We have around 40. We're much higher than the rest of the state. A few reasons for that is, it used to be a lot lower until, and it's a great program, but it really affected us, drug court took all of our OUIL thirds. Those were clients, we saw every one of those. If they were sentenced to local jail and were an OUIL third, we saw every one of them. So you take that out of the play, and it greatly affected our numbers. However, our prison commitment rates, I always have to justify this 3 times a year to the state in my job. Antrim County last month or month before, had 100% prison commitment rate. They only had 2 felons sentenced.
Ah,
One was One was a sex offender, and one was, all the drug busts they've been doing, and they've been focusing a lot on the meth houses and things like that. For years, they've been in this process, so that was the other guy, one more of them.
Right.
Leelanau County had 2 people sentenced. They had 0 that went to prison. So yay, I have a 50% prison commitment rate out of 4 folks. Grand Traverse has a few more. We had like 18 sentenced felons, and we had 11 go to prison. So you mix that all in, and it really looks like we've got an awful prison commitment rate, but we have a small population to deal with. You got Wayne County where Todd, our new, we have a new community correction staff member that started last May when Greg kind of sort of semi-retired. He is a retired Livonia police officer, and we were having a discussion about this today, and they do not even they don't even put in jail folks who, grand larceny, they'll steal a car. They don't even put them in jail, let alone prison, and most of them plead down to a misdemeanor, and they don't even go to jail. So he's like, there's a drastic difference between the folks downstate and up here. We have a good community. Our judges will not accept that kind of behavior here, and I applaud them, and they're proud of it, and I'm proud of them, but I always have to justify that with the state, why I have the highest prison commitment rate in the state.
Anything else on your presentation?
Can I?
No.
May I? I just want to make sure that the point is made.
We
very
can't hear you
clear.
on the TV.
I'm sorry. I want to make sure that the point is made very clear that the $45,000 that community service work brought in were fees that were paid by the participants.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And the hours that they gave to the community, that would be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars that were provided to the community by the work of these people. So not only do they provide the work, but they have to pay to provide the work, which is the source of her revenue. So I just want to make sure that that point was made.
Thank you. And one of the reasons we provide, we want to charge that fee because we have to pay for the things we do, but we also say to them, if you don't want to keep paying, let's get it done quick. We give them every incentive. You can get it done in a week, and it costs you $20.
Yeah.
So I told you, I'm all about incentives and giving people reasons to do everything. But that's all that I have. Do you have any other questions?
That we have? Boy, have we hired
Outstanding.
the right person.
Outstanding.
Well, thank you.
I'm impressed.
I love
Thank you
my
very much.
job.
Judge, you got another comment?
Thank you. Yes, I just want to explain the absence of the 2 other judges. While I was up here speaking last, there came a bit of an emergency that Judge Stefka had to go back. It relates to a new case, and he had to get back there, and he's still working on that now. Judge Haley, this is the Friday before the Vasa race. And
Say no more.
He takes that Friday afternoon off for the last umpteen years. So he's actually doing community service, but I don't think it's part of the community correction program. Thank you again.
Well, we thank you and all your staff for what you're doing. We're so blessed to have the people that care about our community that are working with us. Anything else brought before the board? Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, we are adjourned.
Thanks for
Boy, that means it's a good time to leave.
Oh, he's got a cold. He got Larry's cold.